and they soon became engaged. So, knowledge nugget here, it was during this time in South Dakota that Castro, Trish, and Mona all decided to go and meet with an insurance salesman. Mona had taken a $750,000 policy on herself, naming her daughter Lindsay as her beneficiary and Trish as Lindsay's caregiver. And for some reason, it's very weird that Castro actually named himself as Mona's brother on the policy.
So soon after that, the newly engaged couple, Jim and Mona, along with Lindsay, had gone missing when the private jet that Jim owned was flying had just disappeared on a trip. So this is when Castro and Trish attempted multiple times to cash in on that life insurance policy. But they were refused because there were no bodies that had been found and no evidence of them dying. They were still determined to get that damn life insurance policy, even while rescue teams were still searching for the plane. Then one day, the plane was magically found, and the death certificates were issued for the three of them in the plane. And with those in hand, Trish was able to get paid for those death benefits for a total sum of $750,000 in life insurance.
I didn't know that a caregiver would get the money for a child like that.
I don't know much about life insurance policies, to be completely honest. All I know is that at my current job, I have mine maxed out. So if I get the bucket, my 14-year-old turns into a millionaire overnight.
Well, I can't say nice.
Yeah, he only has a week because, next Tuesday I'm out. I'm done.
Dang. Hallelujah. Now, the money in hand, there was no need to stay in South Dakota anymore, and it was time that they moved elsewhere. By the summer of 2001, Trish and Brian, along with their newborn daughter, Nicole, decided to move to Lee's Summit, Missouri, with Castro and Catherine. So yeah, she's back. And then another knowledge nugget here. It was during this time that Castro was with Trish when she went to get $1 million insurance policy on herself that included accidental death rider, naming her husband as her beneficiary and Catherine as the co-beneficiary.
What the hell is an accidental death rider? It sounds like a band.
It does.
We are the Death Riders. Jesus. All right. So moving forward, Castro had dealt with a real estate agent in Missouri named Jennifer Hudson, who actually helped them purchase a house there in Catherine's name. They lived there for about 3 months before deciding that they wanted to move back to Wichita, Kansas, where they ended up living in some townhomes while they waited for a more permanent place. Now, that real estate agent that helped them buy their house in Missouri, that chick named Jennifer, and with all the time she spent around them, of course, they got very close. She ended up divorcing her husband and taking her two daughters, 10-year-old Emily and 17-year-old Sarah, and moved to Wichita with Castro by June of 2001.
You see a trend here, don't you?
Wow. Oh, I see a trend here. This is crazy.
Now, we already mentioned how much of a piece of shit Castro was. He was telling people he was a seer and could talk to the other side and such. But that lie just wasn't good enough anymore, Aaron.
Oh my God.
He needed to up his game with a better backstory. And who to better help him create this lie other than Trish, the one that just keeps coming around. Castro and Trish had gotten everyone together. They decided to explain what Castro really was. That he was actually 1,000 years old and his body was inhabited by 3 different angels at random times. They go by the name of Arthur, Daniel, and then Amber, who was actually the angel of death.
I would have loved to have been there when they sat everyone down in the living room and told them this. Just to see their reaction. I'd have been like, what the hell is wrong with you? God.
I wish that's what would have happened, but no.
Yeah. So Trish would back this claim and kind of say, hey, this is true, guys. He really is, 1,000 years old, and he has one of 3 angels inhabiting his body at random times. And I can kind of back this up even more, because when I was younger, Castro had actually died, and when he came back to life, he had these superpowers, which at a young age, some kids would believe in these type of stories, and Emily and Sarah being 10 and 17, they actually believed that Castro was an angel, because they were like, why would adults lie? Jesus. All right, so moving forward in the spring of 2002, Trish purchased a 10-acre home in the Sedgwick County of Kansas, which was the outside of Valley Center.
Then Jennifer would purchase the other adjoining property of 10 acres and would build 2 houses on it, which they also had some barn-like buildings there that housed all the vehicles, like the white Corvettes they had and all the big model airplanes that Castro enjoyed. Which, after they got their houses built, the group decided to give this property a name, which they decided on Angel's Landing, which I decided to get a... Thank you, Coda. Which I decided to get a Google Map view of the, property to see what it looked like, since all they had was like pictures of like houses for everything I looked up, and this was the Google Map view of it, which they had 20 acres, and then they all built their houses close together like that.
Where are they getting this money from? Life insurance policies?
Yeah.
Oh my God, man.
Remember,
because that's pretty nice. Look, they got that pool, man.
Yeah, Jim, Mona, and Lindsay, the $750,000.
All right. So, of course, Castro, aka Daniel Perez, he didn't have a job, but everyone was taken care of, and everyone was kind of like living a lavish lifestyle. They had all the material possessions they could ask for. They had ATVs, motorcycles, pools, model planes, all kinds of shit. I mean, they even had horses for the girls, Now, this is where it gets kind of shitty again, and I want to apologize. So Castro, of course, claiming that he was inhabited by these angels, had Emily move into the master bedroom with him. And Emily was the 10-year-old, right?
Correct.
Oh, Jesus Christ. So Castro had to convince the group that he needed someone, quote-unquote, pure to share his bed, as he was a seer and needed a young female virgin to take care of him, or he would die. How the fuck did they fall for this? Are people this gullible?
So I did read up that Sarah and Emily's mom, Jennifer, she did have a real big belief in angels. So I'm thinking that's what Castro was playing off of. And I guess it worked.
Dude, what a piece of trash.
Yeah. I would have just let his ass rot.
Yeah.
But nope. He was now forcing Emily, after she moved into the master bedroom with him, to perform sexual acts with him to help keep him alive, because he used the excuse that without sex, he would also die. Then he decided to set his disgusting eyes upon her sister Sarah as well, and forced her to do the same acts as Emily, but with a different excuse. He told Sarah that she was broken and that no man would marry her, and the only way to fix her was to have sex with him.
Oh my God. This is horrible.
Honestly, it's way worse.
The government shouldn't have raided Mount Carmel in the Waco Branch Davidian compound. They should have raided this Angel's Landing compound.
They should have.
Man. All right. So now it's around 2003. Castro and Trish decided to tell Emily that it was Trish's time to go, and that Trish had failed to, quote-unquote, cross over during an earlier accident. Castro went on to explain to Emily that Trish would be found dead by the pool one day after she fell and hit her head. This was his seer power, where he could see someone's future. He then asked if Emily would like to be there when it happened. What? Which of course she said no. Hey, do you want to be there? Is Trish her mom? I forget, all these women.
Trish was his first ex-girlfriend or whatever.
Oh,
but
okay.
They did refer to her as like their second mother.
Oh my God. So, So Castro told Emily that he would bend time, quote unquote, bend time, just for her, so that she would not be there, but would be there as it happened.
Yes, Aaron, you read that right. When it happens, but you will be there as it happens.
Okay.
I don't know how he got away with some of this shit. I don't know. So Castro continued to tell Emily that after Trisha's accident that she would take Nicole, Trisha's daughter, into the pool and then take her out and then call 911. That she would tell the authorities that Nicole had fallen into the pool while Trish had slipped and drowned while trying to save Nicole. The whole thing was upsetting Emily, but Trish reassured her that she would be coming back to life in a new, healthier body, because that was Castro's power.
Oh my God. All right, 2 weeks later, Castro looked at Emily and told her, "It is time." Only Castro, Trish, Sarah, Emily, and Nicole were at Angel's Landing that day, which was their cult compound of all their houses and everything. So Castro told Sarah to meet him at a local car dealership ahead of time, and then instructed Emily to take Nicole into the pool house and to not come out till he told her to. They both did as instructed, and that is when Emily heard a shriek from what she believed to be from Trish. Castro came and got Emily and told her to wait until he met up with her sister Sarah at the car dealership. Then she could call 911. So I don't get, why are they taking him to a car dealership? I don't get that.
You'll see here in a second.
Okay, all right.
Emily waited about 20 minutes and then completed the plan as instructed. After she called 911, she called Sarah telling her that Trish had fallen into the pool, with Castro putting on an excellent crying act beside Sarah to go along with it. When the paramedics finally arrived at Angel's Landing, they found Trish's body floating in the shallow end of the pool, which was a surprising, occurrence considering she could just stand up. But they believed the story that Emily, told them that she slipped or she hit her head and slipped or something like that. Trish, at the age of 26, was pronounced dead, with her cause of death being an accidental drowning, even though an autopsy conducted with the coroner finding that Trish had a blunt force injury to her head.
Castro killed her ass? He convinced her that it was okay for him to kill her? What? All right, I'll hold on. All right, since there were witness statements of her being, seen where she slipped and hit her head and then drowned, they figured, hey, it must have happened that way. So in August of 2003, Trisha's life insurance paid out, and it was paid out to her husband, Brian. And we can only assume that Castro had power over that money, considering they got more expensive vehicles added to their collection, which they only started out with just like 2 Corvettes and several SUVs. Jesus. And just a side note, he had spent possibly over $1 million in vehicles, and they all had vanity plates that said Angel 1 and Angel 2, and so forth. And the spending just didn't stop there. He even gave the local police department $19,000 to go towards a new police vehicle, and he hosted tons of parties at Angel's Landing, which the local police were always invited to.
Yeah.
Interesting. My question is, how did Trisha's husband not be like, hey, what the hell's going on here?
I'm just going to say that Castro must have a way with words, man.
Okay.
Literally, no one questioned him.
Weird.
Yeah. It wasn't until after the death of Trish did a detective get curious and start to investigate Castro and the Angel's Landing group, or cult, because of the attention they drew to themselves, throwing big parties, driving fancy cars. Detective Ron Goodwin, who was a narcotics detective for Wichita, thought Castro must have been dealing with drugs, but he didn't find anything of the sort. Then, with his initial investigation of Castro, he couldn't find any background information on Lou Castro, which he was not able to find a birth certificate for him or anything. So this detective was starting to get somewhere though, knowing that something was up, but couldn't find anything. So just keep that in mind that Goodwin does show back up later on.
So even after Trisha's supposed accidental, quote-unquote accidental death, they all continued to live at Angel's Landing, where Jennifer, aka the real estate agent lady, began dating a man named David Quiring. Now, David had met the Angel's Landing group